Hey everybody, how you doing? My name is Mark Grob. I'm the head of immersive technology here at UPS. We're going to talk about is the bluntness of where the industry's been in the last 2 years from the perspective of UPS and the logistic networks that we run. Um, we'll have Q&A at the end of the session to answer any questions. So let's get started. So when we were thinking up this discussion, the idea was it'd be kind of more informal. So let's be blunt, right? VR wearables for enterprise. Um, what I'm going to do first is kind of give you the agenda here of what we're going to talk about. So this way, later on, you can skip ahead. First, I'll talk about what UPS has done in the past in the XR. Some of you may not know. Figure give you a quick, brief introduction to that, as well as the key points related to the discussion, which would be integration, finding ownership of XR technology in your organization, health and safety, which is a now type of topic, and we'll talk about what we perceive as a proposed roadmap in logistics as it relates to XR. Brief history here. UPS, we've been at it for a while. About 2016, 2017, we did our first big sort of pushes into virtual reality. We integrated virtual reality into our Intergrad program, which is a driver safety program here domestically in the US. And at the same time, we also explored mixed reality, utilizing the HoloLens, where we create an application called the HoloLens maintenance application. And basically, what that would do is it would, just like we have now with Microsoft Guides and things of that nature, back in 2016, we were doing the same thing, but kind of all in-house built. 2018, 2019, we really view as sort of our pilot to production phase in UPS, where we moved the same product on the VR side internationally, multilingual, multiple sites around the world. And then obviously in 2019, 2020, we really started to get serious. We were really past exploration, trying to figure things out. We were really at a point now where, we needed to really build effective tools for our operations and our organization. And in 2019, 2020 to today, we've made some big strides towards it. One of the big things we learned over the last 2 years in regards to XR is it really still lacks integration. One of the key things we think for XR and enterprise is you need the ability to integrate multiple systems, multi-platforms into the same space. We do see certain examples like digital twins. Some third parties now are coming out with sort of their own sort of automations using learned machine agents, things of that nature. But everything still lacks the ability to talk to one another. To really make something scale, something enterprise, we still feel that integration is key, and we still need to see that piece expand. Under automation, we've experimented using machine learning, where you kind of see this holographic piece here, where the computer is identifying the server versus the old ways with, say, the Microsoft Guides example, where you're anchoring it. We're calling that sort of, there's logic in regards to finding the objects, object recognition, but we still don't have what we're starting to coin the saying of dynamic activation. In mixed reality and augmented reality, activations, which are these experiences, they're all a manual process. I'm using a QR code, I'm using a PR image to trigger some sort of event. But the problem we have there is people need to know about it, right? If they don't know about the application that they need to experience the activation, things just don't happen. So we still see the huge need in enterprise for what we're calling dynamic activations. It's the ability to integrate your smart networks, smart logistics networks into the content that you're actually trying to enable at the time you need it. And then the other piece there obviously is if you want dynamic activation, you need the ability to dynamically coordinate if you need remote assistance, right? Right now, what we're seeing is people are going, they need remote assistance, and then they're kind of jumping out of the application they're in. They're going to kind of a preset sort of person they need to talk to because, again, this is a manual activation. They already know about it before they're doing it. And then they're putting in the person they need to contact. That's not very enterprise scale. So we need integration in mixed reality and XR. VR is a little different because, well, it's not something where you're in the field, you need it now. VR is typically around training or some sort of immersion of a simulation where it's planned. You know you're going to need it, all right? And then the idea is you're trained well enough so that you don't need VR to guide you forward. And that's all around the concept of, with integration, we need our smart digital ecosystems. UPS, we're pretty familiar with our global smart networks in regards to our local logistics networks. So we're very active now in sort of applying the benefits of XR into our networks. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you a nice video of an example we've done where everything sort of integrates. So what we have here is basically, I'm out in the field, I have a wearable on, I'm scanning the 1Z number, which is the barcode on the bottom, and this is totally integrated into our package delivery system. I now am looking for a visual cue of what address I'm delivering at. You now see there's that blue pin and that red pin. The blue pin is the postal location of delivery, and the red pin is what we're calling our snap location in UPS, where it's the preferred location of the customer. So by using augmentation, first time to this house, I know where to deliver the product, where the customer wants it. So here's a case of everything's integrated, everything's talking, from the package delivery system to the geospatial positioning and tracking system in our system called Orion. So with that, it makes delivery accurate, consistent, and easy. And again, this is dynamic. This is on the fly. It's not planned. It's simply making a query against the 1Z number, and then it's collecting all that information. So it's kind of cool, right? Interesting example. We need to see more of this in the market right now. Next thing we're going to talk about is finding ownership. I still feel at the enterprise level in most organizations, there's still a problem of who's going to own it. Who is it? Who's the person that's going to be controlling and taking control of the product, right? In enterprise, we need to know this. To do that right, the idea is at UPS is we've defined the idea that we have business groups, they're going to run it, right? We have IT who's going to support it, right? And then we have the consultant or the internal team that's going to maintain the code base and the solution, right? At UPS, one thing we're feeling very strongly about is that 30 to 40% of the work that's done has to be internal, right? And the reason for that is for any successful enterprise solution, internal people have to own it, right? They have to feel that they are the guardians of what this technology is going to do, and they're going to promote it. They're going to make it go forward. I know there's a lot of people watching this presentation right now that says, "Hey, I've seen paperweight syndrome a lot," and usually it's because the projects are mismanaged, right? No one's taken the time to think about at enterprise level who's going to own it, how is it going to manage, how is it going to be deployed. So these are things that I think still in our field we need to see happen, right? And the other item I wanted to talk about in the last 2 years that we've seen, obviously you can't avoid it, health and safety with devices, right? Before COVID, we talked about things like blinder effects, vertical, horizontal effects in enterprise where the devices themselves are actually creating a hazard. We all know about the law in California where you can't wear Google Glass, otherwise you get a ticket, right? Those are the traditional ways of what we would say in regards to health and safety with devices, right? Now we got this new kid on the block, COVID-19, right? Hey, it's played havoc, right? We all know about it. It's messed with our business. UPS, we're quite familiar with how it's affected us globally, right? It's also affected our family, our employees, my coworkers, right? We've all been affected by that. And in part also, COVID's affected our training, right? And for us, specifically VR training and our wearables in the field, right? Before February of this year, no one really thought about hygiene, right? The only hygiene we cared about was, it's the wipe off policy when we're doing demos at expos or conferences like this, right? Now it's a little different, right? We're discovering to properly and in a safe, confident way to the user maintain the device, right? That wipe down policy that we're trying to institute, it's happening a lot more, right? It used to be, we do it every 10 or 14 people, whatever, wasn't a big deal. But now it's a really big deal because, right, it's life and death. So with that, right, you have hardware where it doesn't support. If it's constantly wiped down, all of a sudden you got lenses that are fogging, infrared sensors that aren't working correctly. You're damaging the hardware in a very short amount of time, right? So these are things that now with the new norm, we're seeing these are things that have to still be answered, right? I know there's those of you saying, wipe down's good enough, but when you really sit down and talk to the end user, it's not. We need to really manage and figure out the right way to answer the health questions in regards to how we have these wearables in the market and in the enterprise space. So the idea of, if someone doesn't feel confident, they don't feel safe, they're not going to use the technology. I don't blame them, right? Another piece we're seeing is, there's the personal device assignment prospect to it, right? So think about it. In UPS, you go to work, somebody hands you a pair of safety glasses, right? That's not a personal device. That's something we call shift assignment. You get safety glasses, you put them on, you take them off, boom, right? At UPS, that's how we traditionally deploy immersive tech, right? We have the mentality of we support people on shift. We don't support the individual person. So now we're thinking there's the aspect of we have to think about that factor in our business of enterprise, right? The wearable needs to support the shifting, right? It can't have big squishy foamy pads anymore. It has to support that constant wipe down when I switch between employees, right? Things got to be rugged, and I'll talk more about that in the next slide. And the aspect of change of pace of technology, right? We used to be, when we would do virtual training, people would swap headsets at a specific assignment. So they would switch in each session or each section of a particular immersive training unit, right? As a group, as a class. Now we found we had to change the process, right? Individuals have to go through the whole lesson before they switch off the device, right? And that's strictly because of health and safety. And then the new aspect of also remote or virtual, it's a good thing, right? With something like COVID, I don't need to be on site. I can remote in and I can kind of virtually see what my coworkers see and offer them guidance to solve the problem. Or, and even a better case, right? It's all virtual. Neither one of us are on site, but we're learning and we're understanding. And we're able to respond through digital twin or some automation, what issues are going on and how to solve it. So health and safety is a big deal. And I think in the last 2 years, we've seen some progress, be it from environment or from competitiveness, but this is still a factor, and it's something that has to continue being a factor going forward. And the last the other part here is our proposed road in regards to logistics and XR. The road, as we see it, is pretty straightforward. We see virtual reality really it's a matured thing, right? When we look at playing against factors like COVID-19, virtual reality is pretty safe. It's pretty solid as a technology. It's not dependent on being on site. It's not dependent on environment. So VR is pretty safe there. Now, the only key piece we see there is keeping confidence and health and safety in mind when we're implementing virtual reality solutions. But what we still need, and what we specifically see, say, in augmented reality or mixed reality, right? We see a whole lot more. I mean, yeah, it's a less mature market of technology, but the aspect of we need ruggedness, right? I said before the idea of safety glasses, right? A lot of the AR and VR, AR and mixed reality stuff out there, these things are delicate. They're really expensive pieces of equipment. The last thing I want to see is a aviation maintenance mechanic toss a mixed reality headset in the back of his truck on the flight deck. These things got to be rugged. Another aspect to it is interchangeable wearables, right? It's the safety glass paradigm, right? What's the key solution that I'm looking for, right? In the case of safety glasses, I don't care how it looks. I care about how it functions. And one of the things we'd like to see potentially is the idea of wearables becoming interchangeable, be it a wearable connected to a CPU unit or a CPU unit that's self-contained inside of a wearable, right? The idea is low cost of technical debt, and these things are interchangeable. This is something that we see in the enterprise. It's got to happen. We're not going to have a silver bullet without it. Obviously, water resistance. We need to start seeing mixed reality devices specifically becoming more resilient to environment. We have a lot of operational use cases where we'd love to see this technology come out, but the resistance just isn't there. So because of that, we immediately have to kind of remove these wearables from that scenario. One we arguably see is still a factor is that most XR and MR devices, they really can't operate when it comes to speech recognition in loud environments. We'd like to see the ability of Decibel to improve so that the hands-free function of speech recognition can be more operable in our type of environment of logistics. Obviously, try to get our hands working instead of controllers. Controllers are great, but in enterprise they get smashed, broken, or lost, or dropped in an inconvenient time that could cause a lot of problems. And then the other aspect of, we talked about integration. We're seeing a stronger need to integrate with geospatial and digital twin technology, IoT spaces, things of that nature. These are things that have to happen to really get XR considered to be more serious in spaces. I know there's vendors out there that have current offerings that meet or partially meet some of these things that I'm talking about. And the last piece I'll kind of reiterate, I said before, it's the idea of that dynamic activation. And when we say dynamic activation, we're talking about, I don't know about it. I don't know that I need it now, right? It's just, I need it because I got a problem or there's something I'm trying to do and I need to get it done now, right? VR, maybe not as much because it's really focused around training or design. But when you're talking about mixed reality or AR, right? I'm in the field, there's a problem, and I need the tool. I would like to use the tool to help solve the problem. I'm not going to go to a printer, print out a QR code, and then put it on an engine or something. No, it's not going to happen. I need something that can link into my smart network and say, yo, Jarvis, or yo, Cortana, or yo, whatever, Siri. I got this problem with this type of engine, and this is the things I'm seeing. Do you have any support documentation for it? And then the device pulls it up, right? Smart, intelligent sort of activations. That's what we need in enterprise to really start seeing this technology being really capable and ROI based in our fields. So with that, I talked really quick probably, and I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of questions. So I think we should move on to that, and let's have a fun discussion.